Placing a lintel beam above every window and door, one by one? Forget it. This plugin drops a beam above every single opening in your whole building, hundreds of them, in one click. Now let's see how the Auto Lintel Beams plugin works. First, we open the ArchPlug tab and click on the Settings button. Under Account, we enter the email we registered with and click Save. Once the status shows connected, all of our activated plugins are ready to use. The Scripts folder just below is only needed for the fast script launcher, so we can skip it. Installed Plugins lists every plugin we own, along with its version, and flags any plugin that has a newer version available online. It also shows each plugin's license type, whether it is monthly or lifetime. And finally, the theme option lets us switch the plugin dialogues between light and dark. Now let's see how this plugin works. We have two types of walls in this model, this ordinary wall and this kind of brick wall. Now we'll hide all the walls we see, including this wall type. And we'll see how the plugin places the beams above the doors and windows. When we click the plugin, we can adjust a few settings in the window. So when we run the plugin, it simply places beams above all the windows and doors. Now, in this window, we can configure several things. We can choose which beam family is placed above the windows and doors, whether it's a plain concrete beam or some other type. Maybe a wooden beam or a steel one. In this section, we set how far we want the beam to extend on both sides. Whether that's 20 centimeters, or maybe in a different unit of measure. Depending on whether our project is in millimeters or in inches. The plugin will work with those units regardless. So here, for example, we type in 20 centimeters or 50 centimeters. Here we type the same thing, but for the doors. Here we type how high we want the beam raised above the door opening. And the beams will be raised that much above the doors and the windows. So the offset above the doors and windows can be customized. In this field, we set one important thing that's related to wall types. If our exterior walls are 20 centimeters thick, meaning the block is 20 centimeters thick, while the interior walls have a block that's 10 centimeters thick, the beam can't be the same thickness for both the exterior and the interior walls. On the exterior walls the beam will be 20 by 20, while on the interior ones it will be 10 by 20 centimeters. It has to be the same thickness as the wall itself. That's why this field was created. We add a new row. And in it we choose a custom wall type and a custom beam type. For the interior wall, which is 10 centimeters thick. Or, if the unit is inches, for example 6 inches. We choose a beam that matches that wall. That's, for example, a beam of a certain thickness that we created in the model. Since we saw at the beginning that we have two different wall types. This one is generic 8 masonry, and the exterior one is generic 8. For generic 8 masonry, I'll set it to use a different beam type. By default the beam is 20 by 20 centimeters. And for this brick wall I'll set a beam of 10 by 20 centimeters. It's also important to say that this plugin works on an update principle. There's no need to delete the old beams. The beams the plugin created will simply update as we change the values in the window. Now let's see how that looks. When we click Run, the beams simply adapt to the changes we made. If we type here that we want, for example, a 60 centimeter extension for the doors, we click Run, and all the beams simply update. The same goes for the windows, for example 100 centimeters. All the beams update above every window. If we raise all the beams by another 40 centimeters above the windows, all the beams simply rise. Or if we set everything back to 0, everything returns to 0. Now, as we did, we added a special wall family and a special beam family. We can see that on these walls. This door is in this special wall type. The beam created above this door is a 10 by 20 beam, while the beam created above the ordinary windows is 20 by 20 by default, as we can see. The plugin works so that this field is simply the default beam, which will always be created for any wall. While here we can always add special wall types and special beam types. And the default type is simply ignored if we've added all the types we want here. Also, with this plugin, like all the other ArchPlug plugins, we can save a template. So if we've added, for example, many different wall types and many different beam types, and entered some parameters in the fields that suit us, we can simply export the template, that is, save it. The template is saved in a special dedicated ArchPlug folder. We can give it any name we want. And we simply click Save. And later, when we close the window, change something in its settings. And change the parameters here. When we click Import Template and import that old template, all the settings we had made in the template will come right back into the window, and we can simply click Run. And that template will be applied in the model. Here we also have an option that allows us to hide all of the beams whenever we need to, and we do that simply by pressing the Hide All Beams button. And whenever we would like to bring the beams back into the 3D view, we simply press the Unhide All Beams button, and all of them return to exactly the same place where they were before. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, make sure to check out our other videos on the channel, and visit archplug.com to explore all the plugins we have available. See you in the next one.